Hi, Christy here. I'm finally back on video after having been sick for 2 weeks. My husband came back from New Jersey. He got sick shortly thereafter, and then unfortunately he gave it to me. I haven't had a cold or flu or COVID, any of that, since I think it was like 2017, 2018, something like that. So it was quite unexpected. I could have recorded last week, but my voice was just so weird. Like, no, I'm not going to make people listen to this. So anyway, I thought I would start today's exploration with breaking the rules versus breaking the law. This is in my awareness right now because I've been thinking about how we can get really constrained by, it has to be a certain way, there has to be certain rules. It reminds me, I've probably told this in another video, my husband's grandmother, who was part of the family business, she worked with this young fellow who was like, whose rule is it where the stamp goes on the letter? And it's something you don't think about. You just know that's where it goes, that's where it belongs, that's how the post office works. But for that person, they questioned, like, why is it like this? And that's not a law per se, but probably it gets returned to you if you put the stamp, I don't know, on the back of the envelope. But then when it comes to breaking laws, that's a huge deal. That's a big, big difference. We agree to submit to authority. And by the way, I'm doing this with my records open, my Akashic records open. We agree to submit to authority when we're in part of a society, unless we are planning to be a lawbreaker. A person who goes beyond breaking just the simple rules, but the ones that are actually codified into law, which is what's going on with our current administration here in the US, which I could go on at length about the illegality of all of that. But that's where someone says, I'm the authority. Like, you're not the boss of me. You're not the authority over me. I decide. I'm the one in charge and I can do whatever I want. Which most of us can't get away with that because society would be just completely chaotic if we did that. So there's a way in which we can practice, expanding into having fewer rules ourselves. That's one of the things that hangs up a lot of us, where like it should be like this and it should be like that, and you're supposed to follow these particular steps. Or if you, for example, let's say you're doing morning pages every day as part of the Artist Way process. You write these 3 longhand pages of journal writing every day, sort of clearing the decks, and then you miss a day. And it's like, oh no, like what am I supposed to do now that I've missed a day? Like, you've somehow negated all those previous days. So can we get to the point where we go, oh yeah, well, okay, well I missed a day, but I can also keep going. Just like for me, I had a very long streak, both in doing the treadmill and doing strength training. All right, I got sick. Can I be okay with, all right, this streak is not going to be the same. It's going to be interrupted. It turned out on Tonal, where I do strength training, you can actually do like a meditation and still count as an exercise. So I did that one of the weeks. But can we make room for the rules to be helpful, supportive, kind of a container for us, without them being so confining, so constraining that they create problems for us? And then of course on the other side is, but still obey laws. Like, stop signs are not suggestions. They're there for a reason. We're supposed to stop because that helps keep everyone safe. And if all of us were forever running lights, which we see, certainly, there's talk here in Tucson that, most people run a yellow light. And I've done it, I've seen it. It's tricky when you're in a big intersection and it's just a really long wait and people get impatient, right? So the thing about making room for ourselves, I think, is kind of the key thing, the sort of part of this that the records keep pointing me toward, is this way in which we can, I think, even perhaps softening the idea that things are rules. Again, this is separate from laws, but softening the idea that things are rules that then confine us to the point where maybe we even don't do something, or maybe we really get caught up in the perfectionism side of it, getting it exactly perfectly right, the black and white thinking. Can we stay in a place of more flow, more leisure, more permission to be self-expressing, to be deciding what's important to you, you know, sort of the hierarchy of what's important. And that then lends itself to us becoming more of who we are in the world, right? That's the thing I always talk about. We're here for two reasons. One, to be more and more of who we are, to become more and more of who we are in the world, and to develop more love and compassion for ourselves and others. So can we have compassion for ourselves when we decide, you know what? I modified that thing. This feels better to me. And of course, this is personality based. There are some people who are like, yeah, I never want to follow the rules. I'm always going to do what I want to do. This is, you know, this is the way I self-express. This is the way I push the boundaries. You can't confine me. And then there are others of us, which is more where I fall, where I'm like, oh, like this is the way it's designed and this is the way I should do it. And then there takes some like growth and evolution to go, which parts work for me and which parts don't work for me? And go from there in terms of, you know, what feels most aligned, what feels most expressive, what feels like you have more freedom instead of less freedom. And then we can go use that as sort of a launching pad, sort of having a foundation of a sort, while we also can go do our own thing while on that stage, if you will. They're showing me like people dancing around on stage so that we can be who we are and yet also take input. I think that's an interesting part they're bringing up, because the person who's like the constant rebel, the constant like, oh yeah, I'm not doing any of that, they don't necessarily benefit from some of the wisdom and experience of whatever the thing is. Now, on the one hand, we can get very attached to like, this is the way it worked for me. You have to do it the way it worked for me. But this also lends credence to the idea that there may be something there worth exploring, or at least trying it on, sort of like a jacket, and seeing if some of it fits, you know, or if it needs to be altered to fit you appropriately. All right, well, that's, I think, enough about that today. I'd love to hear in the comments below whether you are trying to self-express more. You know, I think I've asked before, do you consider yourself more a rebel or a rule follower? You could answer that question as well. But also, how do you work with systems that provide structure, some of which you like and some of which you don't like? I'd love to hear that in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, please go be brilliant.